Hi, everyone. Welcome to Proudly Jewish. I'm Rabbi Eyal Bitton, and today I'm going to be talking about something that everyone is talking about, which is Tucker Carlson's interview with Ambassador Mike Huckabee. Ambassador Mike Huckabee does a great job, by the way. You should watch some of this, all of it if you can. It's a long one. Now, they cover a whole bunch of topics: Gaza, Iran, war, American aid. But for me, the most revealing moments are not about Gaza or Iran or war or anything like that. They're about Jewish identity. Jewish identity. At several points in the conversation, the questioning shifts. It's no longer about policy. It becomes about whether Jewish peoplehood even makes sense. It's about whether Jewish peoplehood is even legitimate, about whether Jewish peoplehood can withstand scrutiny. And that's a very different conversation. I'm going to show you a clip in a moment to show you what I mean. So at this point, the conversation turns to a deceptively simple question. What exactly is a Jew? Is Jewish identity ethnic? Is it religious? Is it political? Is it something else entirely? So listen carefully to how the question is framed and what assumptions are built into it. Watch.
Who has a right to the land?
Yeah.
And you said it's a mixture of religion and ethnicity, because as I noted, and you agree, many of the founders, maybe the majority of the founders of modern Israel, did not believe in God at all. So they were not religious Jews. They weren't religious at all. They were atheists. They said they were atheists. I believe them. So that suggests it's ethnic. But it's also true, as you well know, because there's a famous court case about this, that ethnic Jews who convert to Christianity do not have the right of return. That was settled by the Israeli Supreme Court. I'm very confused. So that would suggest it's not ethnicity, because you invalidate your Jewishness by converting to Christianity?
There are a number of Messianic Jews who live in Israel.
Okay.
Who are here.
I'm aware of
It's a significant number.
But you're not contesting what I'm saying, because it's a very famous court case.
The right of return has to do with your mother, your grandmother. It has to do with family
ties. So it's ethnic.
There's a lot of, sure, ethnicity is a big part of the right of return.
Great.
To make aliyah, to come to Israel, to live here.
Then if both of your parents are Jewish and you have an ethnic right to the land, you are one of Abram's descendants, but you convert to Christianity, how is it you don't have the right to return? I'm totally confused.
But I know a number of people who have returned as Christians, but have Jewish history.
Are you
Jewish
saying that Jews who convert to Christianity have a right, a legal right to return? Because I
know that they do. Whether, when you say, do they have a right to return, do they prove?
It's a legal category, as in any government.
Which is by their family history, their grandmother, their mother, and there are many aspects of that.
I've read it. I think,
but I know that these are people who are Christian, and they came here, made aliyah. They had Jewish blood, Jewish history. They were Christian, Messianic, but they came here, and they were welcomed here.
And they were given full legal rights here.
Absolutely.
And a passport.
Yeah.
So clearly, it's not true that you invalidate your right of return by converting to Christianity. That's just false.
I'm not aware of that. I know that there are a number of Christians here. I go to church with Christians every week here.
Of course.
And
but do you have a right to come and say, I am an ethnic Jew, even though I practice Christianity, therefore I have every bit as much right to move into a settlement in the West Bank or into East Jerusalem or anywhere I want?
This is a classic trap. It's a category trap. He's trying to force Jewish identity into one of two boxes: only religion or only ethnicity. Now, if it's religion, the idea is that you can't claim land. If it's ethnicity, then how can you accept converts, right? Now, what is Jewish identity? We are a people, a covenantal people. We have a shared ancestry, a shared law, shared memory, and we have a mechanism through which people can join our people. That's called conversion. Remember that King David's grandmother joined our people. Now, this is ancient nationhood. We were a joinable tribe, a joinable collective. We predate modern concepts of nationality and modern concepts of religion. We are a nation with a religion. So we don't fit. Jewish identity doesn't fit into modern Western categories because it predates them. Now, I prefer the Hebrew word Yahadut to Judaism. Why? Judaism, you say Judaism, people think religion. Yahadut comes from the word Yehuda, Judah. We were from the kingdom of Judah, Judeans, Judahites. And in Hebrew, the people from Yehuda are Yehudim. The word for Jews today is Yehudim. We are, in Hebrew, that linguistic connection is right there. Yehudim, from Yehuda. And the peoplehood that comes along with the religion is Yahadut, which is obviously connected. It's people with a religion. And English and the modern concept of religion and nationhood don't mesh easily with this fairly simple concept that predates modern concepts of nationhood and religion. So we are a joinable, tribal collective. Now, if Jewish identity cannot be reduced to religion alone, and it can't be reduced to ethnicity alone, then the next move is predictable. And that's where Tucker's going. You ask for proof, genetic proof. Now listen to how quickly the question goes from what is a Jew to can you prove it genetically? Watch.
Abram's descendants are the ones who have the right to have this land, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Why don't we do genetic testing on everybody in the land and find out who Abram's descendants are? It's really simple. We've cracked the human genome. We can do that. Why don't we do that? Would you be against doing that?
I have no idea what that would prove. I mean,
Really?
maybe it would be.
What do you mean? It would prove who Abram's descendants are and who has a right to live here and who doesn't, according to the theology that you yourself just explained. And so I'm very confused as to why we don't do that. If you believe the theology that you've just explained to me.
Would we do that all over the world?
Well,
and everybody
this is the only country in the world that you've said has this covenant with God, that this people have a moral and legal right to the land.
What about people who convert to Judaism? Would they have a right?
Well, you've just said.
I mean,
that
there are
it's
converts
not,
to Judaism, so
you just told
they
me,
can make Aliyah. They may not have
You've just
DNA.
told me that it doesn't matter. You told me moments ago, I'm trying to keep track,
Okay.
that it doesn't matter whether or not you believe in God or whether or not you practice Torah Judaism or Rabbinic Judaism, which is something else that I don't even know if we should, I don't even know what that means. But it doesn't matter whether you're, quote, a religious Jew or not. What matters is that you are part of the Jewish people to whom God gave this land that extends from the Nile to the Euphrates. And so if you believe that, wouldn't you want to know with a burning passion who those people are? And because of science, we can now know who those people are. So why aren't we finding out?
I guess you could propose a DNA test for everybody who comes here, everybody who lives here. But the point
I'm comfortable with secular nation states where none of this is done on the basis of blood. I'm uncomfortable with that. I'll just say that.
But there are people who may not have bloodlines, but who have converted to Judaism. Are they going to be able to live here? Are you going to kick them out?
By your standards, they can't live here.
No,
because
I've
you've just
never
told
said
me
that
they have a right to live here because God gave them the land because they're the descendants of Abram.
They're the descendants of Abraham. But if they're the spiritual descendants of Abraham and they've now decided that they're converting to Judaism, then do they have a right to live in Israel?
Now, whenever someone proposes a genetic test to determine who belongs in the Jewish homeland, History should make you pause. Since when is DNA used to create national legitimacy? DNA can reflect ancestry. It cannot create legitimacy. It cannot erase memory. It cannot define peoplehood. Jewish continuity has depended on covenant, culture, law, language, collective memory, not genetic certification. And notice how, once again, a unique standard is applied to the Jewish people. No one proposes DNA tests for Italians in Rome, or Greeks in Athens, or Japanese in Japan. But let's be honest about what's happening here. This is no longer about foreign policy. It's about whether Jewish identity itself passes inspection. Right? Whether Jewish identity itself passes Tucker Carlson's inspection and people who think like him. So let me be clear. There is a certain audacity in Tucker's line of questioning. The audacity of an outside commentator demanding that Jews explain whether we are truly a people, whether our ancestry can be verified, whether our connection to our ancestral land is legitimate. I can't think of another people who are routinely asked to justify their existence in this way. No one asks the Japanese to genetically validate Japan. No one asks Greeks to prove that they are truly Greek before recognizing Athens. But Jews are asked again and again to prove who we are. Not the Palestinians, mind you. We, the Jewish people, we have the same religion, the same customs, and speak the same language as our people did over 2,000 years ago. We have literary, religious, and historical documents and records tracing back over 2,000 years. And they question if we're legitimate over and over again. Palestinians with last names indicating that they came from Egypt, from Kurdistan, from Iraq, can make the preposterous claim that they're Canaanite. And the public accepts it without question. And here's the part that makes this more than an academic debate. What happens if we fail the test? What happens if we fail Tucker Carlson's test? What if we fail to persuade Mr. Tucker Carlson and others who think like him that Jewish identity is coherent enough, ancient enough, biological enough, pure enough? Then what? The only logical conclusion would be this. If we are not truly a people, then we Jews have no legitimate claim to self-determination. If we have no legitimate claim to self-determination, then Israel has no right to exist. And if Israel has no right to exist, then over 7 million Israeli Jews must simply disappear. That is not a theoretical discussion. That is the potential erasure of over half the world's Jewish population. So yes, I take this very seriously. Because when the non-Jewish world begins defining who Jews are, history tells us that it rarely ends well. So now we move from defining who or what is a Jew to genetics and biology. We went from what is a Jew to can you prove it? When I say we, I mean Tucker Carlson. And he reflects a thinking that is very common out there. Now, there's a reason that the can you prove it question matters. Because if Jewish peoplehood is in doubt, if Jewish peoplehood doesn't make sense, if it's biologically and genetically suspect, then the next step is obvious. Why should Jews have any claim to a land at all?
If the Jews didn't have this land, would the Jews have a right to any land?
I don't know. I'm not attacking the Jews. I'm asking if this applies to every people in every nation. Does every nation have the same right to its own homeland, to its own physical land that you say Israel does?
I feel like we're in a rabbit hole here.
No, I think it's a very straightforward question.
No, but
does that right extend to other countries other than Israel?
But the most important thing that is going on in our culture right now is whether or not the people that are yelling in the streets from the river to the sea, whether that's a legitimate point of view to say that there should not be a Jewish homeland. There should not be a Jewish state.
You'll never hear me say
period.
that. I just want to know.
I know you haven't said it, but that's the argument.
It's one of the arguments going on globally. And the United States, excuse me, has a pretty narrow view, I would say, in our media culture, of what's happening around the world. There are plenty of countries having this debate. Stonehenge is a lot older than the first temple in Israel. And it was built by the same people who live there now. It's the same people. And they are being pushed off their island and outnumbered by people from other places. And so in Great Britain, in Ireland, which is also a country with a nation of people, a race, if you will, that is being displaced, replaced.
Who are they being replaced by?
Immigrants.
Okay.
From other places.
I just wanted to clarify because I was one of the...
Well, just as a demographic matter, it's just like you can look at the numbers. It's not controversial. Just look at the numbers. There'll be a minority in their country. And their people have been there longer than Jews have been in Israel. Yeah. And so they're having this debate too. That's all I'm saying. And lots of places are having this debate.
Sure.
So does that principle apply to everyone, or is it specific just to Israel?
I think it applies specifically to Israel. It applies to anyone who can prove that they have some connection to the land and connection to the history and connection to international law. But Israel, I think, does have an extraordinary...
Up international law? So if, again...
Well, no, but let me finish this,
yes,
Tucker, because here's the point. We're talking about Christian Zionism. The idea that as a Christian, I believe in both the Old and the New Testament. Why wouldn't I? I'm a person of the book. There are 80 million evangelical Christians in the United States. What makes us who we are is our adherence to the Scripture, our belief that the Bible, all of it, not part of it, but all of it, is the Word of the living God.
Yeah.
So if I believe in the Old and the New Testament, I do believe that there is a very specific call to the Jewish people that started with Abraham, and he called them out of what is now modern-day Iraq, said, "Come where I send you." He came. This is the land. Genesis 12:3. He says, "I will bless those who bless you, curse those who curse you." In Genesis 17, he looks out at the world. He says, "Look, and this is where I'm giving you the land."
I think
and since that time, there have been people living in this land,
right,
connected to that moment of history. So there is a historical connection that is unbroken.
You've said that, and I want to ask you what that means a little more specifically, if that's okay. But first, let me just say that you could say the same thing of Britons who've been there in their land longer.
Is anybody trying to tell the Brits they can't live there anymore?
No, what's happening is...
But they are saying that to the Jews.
Oh, okay. But I just wonder if you would extend the same sympathy or the same principle. You seem like this is, you think I'm trying to trap you. I'm not. I'm at all trying to trap you. It'd be as simple as saying native Britons have the same...
I got no problem with the native Brits having their land.
Having the right to their land.
But my point is, I don't know that there is a biblical connection for the Brits.
Okay.
But I would say...
So that's what it comes down to.
Take that off the table, and I think there's still a basis for the Jews having this little bitty strip of real estate.
I'm not even arguing with you. I'm just trying to, at all. I'm just trying to understand what it is that you're saying.
Jewish civilization began in that land. Jewish civilization, Jewish identity was shaped in that land. The exile was imposed upon us. We were kicked out. First by the Babylonians, and then by the Romans, 2,000 years ago. That exile was imposed from the outside. But our attachment to the land never ceased. We Jews originated in that land. We were exiled by imperial forces. We maintained a continuous presence in the land. There were still Jews there the entire 2,000 years. Not a huge population, but there were always Jews there. We maintained a continuous cultural orientation toward that land. I won't go through all the customs. We've got almost every holiday that is grounded in that land. We prayed and continue to pray toward that land. We wrote about it. We sang about it. We returned to it. That is peoplehood and continuity. Being exiled does not erase being indigenous. This interview by Tucker Carlson is an important one. Not because what he has to say is valid, not because what he has to say is, to use the word again, legitimate, but because he has a huge audience and because his thinking reflects many other people's thinking. And no, I don't mean just from the right. I mean from the right and from the left. We've heard these arguments before, and they're very troubling. They're not coming from a good place. It's not some person who is curious about Jews and Jewish identity and wants to elucidate himself, to understand better. It's someone who's coming in to challenge Jewish identity, to question it. This is not about politics. It's not about policy. He shifts to whether Jews are they really a people? He shifts to, are Jews really indigenous? Are they really continuous? So again, this is no longer politics. This is something deeper. And Jewish identity does not require external certification. Jewish identity does not require genetic testing. It's kind of frightening to even discuss that, given what happened last century and genetic identity, racial identity. Jewish identity does not require philosophical approval by the outside world. It should not, it does not. Jewish peoplehood is ancient. It's continuous. Jewish peoplehood is defined by the Jewish people. We are a people bound by covenant, history, language, memory, and yes, land. We are bound by land. As I said earlier, we are a joinable people. King David, if you recall what I said earlier, King David himself descends from Ruth, a woman who joined the Jewish people thousands of years ago. Ours is not a racial category. It's not a modern political invention. It's a living civilization. And no civilization should need permission to exist. We are a people. We always have been. Thanks for joining me on Proudly Jewish.